Hi and welcome to the We Need a Roads podcast, and what we do echoes in eternity, or at least the internet. I'm your host, Nelius Gregorius, and I'm joined by our very own Marie Falcone, because she will only murder you if you're not environmentally friendly. Hey Marie, how's it going?
Oh, you took me by surprise by that intro. That was brilliant. Yeah, doing all right.
Yeah, I was like, am I going to go for all Roman stuff, or I said, no, I feel like we need something murderous mentioned as well. So, yes. And if that laboured intro wasn't enough, yes, in today's episode, I'll be briefly reviewing Sean Baker's Cannes winner and Oscar favourite Anora. And then that's basically it. Everything else is going to be in our spoiler section, which we're going to be talking Ridley Scott's greatly anticipated Gladiator 2. We're going to be waddling through the sewers of Gotham with Colin Farrell as the Penguin, all hail Queen Sophia. And never has many rooms writing on tiny bits of paper been more exciting than in Edward Berger's Vatican drama and another Oscar contender, Conclave. But before we get to all that, throw in the format out the window already. I'm going to go for a quick what we've been watching. And the first thing I have to talk about is it's a welcome back to Rebecca Ferguson and season 2 of Silo on Apple TV+. Now look, I really enjoyed season 1, but then again, I'd enjoy watching Rebecca Ferguson read the phone book. And then as I wrote that, I realised how this ages me because we don't really have phone books anymore. And they weren't even really a thing when I was a kid. But people still use that saying, right? Do people use that saying? I will watch someone read the phone book.
I think so, yeah. I think it makes sense.
Okay. I feel like I used to read the phone book. Like people always said, I'd always want to hear Morgan Freeman read the phone book because of the voice. So I got that wrong on both counts out. But okay, getting back to Solo. The problem with the show is season 1 came out before Fallout. And now Solo feels just like, what if you took Fallout, set it almost all in the vault and removed the humour? And I need a little bit more fun with my post-apocalyptic shows. And as expected, though, like Rebecca Ferguson is great in the premiere episode, although half the episode is flashbacks, and I'm not a fan of flashbacks. And as the episode kind of builds to its conclusion, there are so many scenes towards the end of the episode that are so dark, it made the Battle of Winterfell look like a brightly lit sun.
Oh,
Yes, it was that
when
dark.
they do that. Why do they do that? We don't all have like 4K TVs.
But the thing is, I do have a 4K DVD, and I watched it at night, and it is all set up and tuned properly, and it was still dark as fuck. I was just like, and I posted it on our socials, like, is it just me? And everybody like, no, good, it isn't just me. They're like, yeah, we were trying to watch it as well. We watched it at night with the curtains closed and like blinds, and we still couldn't see what was going on. So people, light your sets. Show us Rebecca Ferguson. But yeah, without getting into plot spoilers, I'm interested to see where season 2 of Silo goes. But currently, it sits sadly in Fallout Shadow for me. Marie, what have you been watching?
Right. So I finished this in a day because it's, in my defense, it's only 3 episodes, but I was going to like do 1 episode 1 day each.
That sounds like a British show.
Yeah, that is Lost Boys and Fairies. And I'm trying to like bully my co-host into watching this because it's amazing how a show can be so funny and emotionally devastating at the exact same time. I mean, it is a gut punch of a show, but at the same time, it has so many laugh out loud moments. It follows the story of a queer couple on their journey to adoption and what that entails, and it's set in the UK in Cardiff, and you just follow their relationship and explore like what does actually mean adding a child to this dynamic. And it is just it is really good, but it also has just so many interesting conversations centered around the experience of being queer and becoming a parent, but also just there is like conversations about old gay versus new gay, basically. There is one centered around language, which I thought was really interesting because as someone who speaks multiple languages myself, there are a few words that I refuse to say in my native tongue because they are homophobic. And I think those kind of conversations are really interesting to have. And also the resolution of that, like, little plot thread was also really interesting because in this case it's like referring to the Welsh language, and I don't know much about Welsh. The only thing I would say about this is that I am very torn about the ending, especially the last episode, and that's why I need someone else to see this because I need to discuss it.
About it.
But it will just take you a day. Each episode is, I think, between 45 minutes to an hour long. The acting is superb. There's singing. It's very queer, but the characters are just so lovable as well, and I highly recommend it.
I just had a quick look at it when you were saying, and the two guys do not look old enough to be adopting a child. Like they look like teenagers still in it. But I recognise the actor's name somewhere. Far Free. I'm trying to think what I saw him in. I recognise the name from somewhere.
I think
Um,
EastEnders.
I'd never watched EastEnders.
I've never watched
No.
EastEnders either, but I just saw that one of them got married, and that was the headline. EastEnders actor
Well,
gets married.
It's funny you saying about a gay couple trying to adopt, because that's a plot line in the next show I'm going to talk about. But I think it comes from a very heterosexual writing point of view. So you need to watch this show, because I think the comparison between the two would be very kind of like when you said it's a very straight show in that terms. But that show, it's still brilliant, and that show is Shrinking, which is also in the Apple TV void. And it's from creator Bill Lawrence of Scrubs and Ted Lasso fame. And it's the second series of his show about a psychiatrist, Jimmy, played by Jason Segel. Do you remember Jason Segel? He used to be everywhere, and then he just kind of disappeared. Like, about 10 years ago, every big comedy he was in.
Well, I mean, How I Met Your Mother kind of tanked that. Changed the ending.
Although, again, from that, there's come someone we're going to be talking about a little bit later, who is kind of having a good career. And so is Jason Segel now. So the idea of this show in season 1 was that he's struggling after the death of his wife. It's not a spoiler, because it's literally the setup of the show. And he's kind of like, the very first scene of the very first episode, he's like off his face on like drugs and alcohol with like these two young girls in his swimming pool. His neighbors are complaining, and his daughter comes in. He's like, teenager, like, Dad, what the hell are you doing? And he's like, oh shit, you're the dad. And then you see him and his day job is he's a psychiatrist. And of course, this means all his friends and co-workers are also psychiatrists. And kind of like the father figure of the show is the late, I was about to say the late, great Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford is not dead, people.
I was about to say he's still alive there, Neil.
Yeah. No, and it's Harrison Ford. And Harrison Ford is playing, well, Harrison Ford. So he's a grumpy old man with really wicked one-liners. And it's just great to see him do TV. He's so good in it, playing like the cratchety older thing. And like he's so harsh on Jimmy all the time. But Jimmy's a douchebag at the start of the show, and he deserves it. And a large part of season 1 was Jimmy getting told off by Ford's character for getting too close to his patients and to rein in his more unorthodox methods of treating his patients, which of course he doesn't do, which leads to season 1's big cliffhanger, which we're not going to address here. But it's literally one of the best cliffhangers you will ever see in a show. I just like the word that someone says is boop, and the meaning of boop is amazing. Also, it's only a short show. They're only about 35-minute episodes, so when you get a chance to watch it. But this is season 2. Those just started now, and I think they were about 6 or 7 episodes in, so not a lot far to go, and they just fly by. And now the show is also co-curated and co-written by Roy Kent from Ted Lasso, Brett Goldstein, and he makes a rather massive impact in the episodes I've seen in season 2 so far. I'm not going to reveal who his character is, because that is a spoiler. You've got Mrs. Bill Lawrence, the wonderful Cristin Miller. Do you ever watch Scrubs back in the day, Marie?
Of course. Don't insult me.
I apologize. It's because of the age thing, right? So I mean, clearly, like, Scrubs is quite an old show now. But yeah, so Cristin Miller is Bill Lawrence's wife, and she plays Jordan in Scrubs.
Oh, nice.
She is just playing that character as the nosy next door neighbor, Liz, in this show. And again, she's brilliant in this. She's so funny. But look, this show's superb, but once again, it falls into the Apple TV void where no one seems to know it exists. But also, I will give them shit on this. It's got some of the worst trailers and promos for a show I have ever seen. Season 1, the promo was Jason Segel jumping on a trampoline in slow motion. That doesn't tell you anything about the show, what it's about, or the tone. And that's pretty much a reason why I didn't watch it for a while. Because it's like, no. Season 2's trailer is all the main characters sat on a park bench, and Harrison Ford just making them shuffle down one. That's it. Like, show people what the show's about. So if you remember the Brendan Fraser episodes of Scrubs, they were hilarious, and then they destroyed you within the same scenes. That's what this show is. Because it's to do with grief, it's to do with moving on, but his patients have got really good stories. You've got one patient who's an ex-war vet who's dealing with PTSD. You've got a great storyline with his daughter and how she's coping with it and how she's coping with her dad not coping with it. This is that show. It's Bill Lawrence at his peak again. It's gut-bustingly funny. Like, it's so sharply written. And then literally seconds later, you're in tears, the same scene. So, I mean, like I say, if you're fans of Scrubs and you remember the Brendan Fraser episodes, this is the show to go and watch. Just get your Apple subscription, get like the free month, buy something by Apple, and Apple give us free stuff for saying buy stuff by Apple. But then go and buy something by Apple, because then you get like 2 free months free of Apple TV. And there is so much good stuff on it now. So go and watch Shrinking. and breathe and relax. Marie, what else have you got?
Well, I'm not sure if I've ever mentioned this show on the pod before because I've been watching a little show called Arcane.
Doesn't ring a bell. No.
Uh-huh. So, yeah, I am a massive Arcane fan, as I've made it very, very clear. And Act 1 and Act 2 are out now. I still have one more episode left for Act 2, but it has not disappointed. I've been really enjoying the second season and still have no idea where the conclusion is heading and what's going to be the resolution because this is the final season. They've made that very clear, which I do appreciate. I always like when a showrunner is like, "Oh no, we're going to end it here," like yeah, like because that's the story we want to tell. Um,
Do you think part of that reason, though, is just the cost of the show?
I mean, because there are talks of spin-offs as well, so I don't think it's a cost issue. I think it's more like this is going because this is Jinx's and Violet's story, and it's going to be told through 2 seasons, and I think that's it. And
But the world
um,
they've created is ripe for
yeah, I mean,
spin-off
there's
stories.
already talks of spin-offs, and they're
Oh,
saying
good, good,
we'll
good, good.
return to this world of Arcane, and there's of course plenty to draw from the source material, which I'm not that familiar with because I fucking hate League of Legends. I played it once, got cursed out, and never played again. It's just that was my one time experience playing League of Legends. Like League people are just no, they're weird. So that's why I was so surprised by Arcane because it was like Arcane League of Legends, and I was just like, oh no, I'm gonna dismiss this. And then everyone who's into fantasy was like, no, you need to watch Arcane, and I was just like, okay.
Weirdly, like the my favorite pod I listen to, the Pilot TV podcast, they don't generally like animated shows, and all three of the co-hosts on it were just like, it looks beautiful. It's maybe the best animated show of all time.
It is. I mean, the animation is gorgeous. I have to say, I kind of feel like they took a bit of shortcut in season 2. I'm not sure. Like, I mean, you've mentioned this before, like the song montages. I don't think they were that prevalent in season 1. And I think it's because maybe like what was it, 13 years for season 1? Like it was an insane amount of time of how long season 1 was took. And then now they had like because it was so good, they had this like added pressure to release season 2 quite soon. Otherwise, people would forget about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm only an episode and a half in, and I was like, okay, montage, just how you start the season, cool. But then when they did it at the start of the second episode again, I was like, oh no, come on. It hasn't grabbed me as much so far. I feel like I need to go back and start it season 2 from the start again. And just when I've got when I have time, which I always have time in a minute. But yeah, I just need to watch it because it didn't grab me. I found myself distracted when I was watching it. And that didn't happen with season 1. So I feel that's more a me problem than a problem with the show, as it sounds like at the minute. But I am going to crack onto it. And like I said, I was sitting there the other night and I was like, okay, do I do Arcane or do I go into Cobra Kai? And I did
Mm.
Cobra Kai.
I mean, when it comes to like end of the watch night, when you want something easy, yeah, I would say Cobra Kai. Oh, so I just looked it up. Season 1 took 6 years, not 13. I don't know where I got
Okay.
13 one, but it's
But
still a
but
significant amount of
it's a lot
time.
of time. Yeah. So do you know when we're going to get part 3 of it as well?
I think
When is it
either
due?
Saturday or
Oh, it's this year still. It's not
yeah,
like
no, no,
being
no,
dragged
no, no.
out.
It's like one act each week.
Oh, cool,
So
cool,
we're
cool,
gonna get
cool.
the conclusion next week.
Okay,
That's
then I'll
no,
have
no,
to
no.
catch
They're
up with it.
not doing a Cobra Kai thing where they're stretching this out throughout like multiple years. They
Bastards.
like they're stretching out the final season or like Invincible. No, no, because I think they did this with season 1 as well. But like when I watched season 1, they were all already out. But no, because the story is told in 3 acts. One act is released every single week.
Well, I think we'll be circling back round to Arcane once we've finished it all, when we're in a few weeks' time. One other thing, and I've seen, which is a show that I had completely forgot was going to be a thing and come out this year, and it's crazy because it's a spin-off from one of the biggest films of the last couple of years, and that is the first episode of Dune Prophecy. And I'll admit, I forgot it was a thing until Sky reminded me the other day, and it popped up on my alerts. I was like, oh shit! Now this show is basically House of the Space Witches, in that it's a Dune prequel about the beginnings of the Bene Gesserit and their plans to control the universe through selective breedings and their influence. It's set 10,000 years before the events of Dune, and it follows Avalia and Tula, the Harkonnen sisters, played by the amazing Emily Watson and Olivia Williams. And they're literally two of the best British actresses out there. And I read an interview and they said, how good is it to have two actresses in their mid to late 50s as the leads of a major franchise genre show, and also we haven't had any work done. And I mean, they were both amazing anyway, but they're so good. But the show also has Vikings Travis Fimmel, Ragnar Lothbrok himself coming into it. It's like this enigmatic soldier outsider guy. Mark Strong's also in it, playing an earlier emperor. Earlier emperor, that is a hard 2 words to say back to back. An earlier emperor, Giovinno Carino. Fucking hell, all 4 of those words are difficult. So without delving too much into plot specifics, I will say, I bet the pitch meeting for this show was, hey, what about if we do House of Dragons in space? Because that's literally what it is. It's scheming, it's politicking, it's backroom subterfuge, it's the occasional shocking murder, and, an arranged marriage. It's all very House of the Dragon. So I kind of enjoyed the first episode. It's a long one. It's 67 minutes without adverts. It's a hefty chunk of time. And visually, it's there as well. It's got the look of like Villeneuve's films. And I think he was exec producing on it. But I can't see this really getting multiple seasons. I mean, it might, because there's only 6 episodes. And the cost of the show has got to be through the roof. I think even though it was filmed in Hungary. But I enjoyed it. But as I was watching, I was like, this just reminds me of Foundation. But Foundation's budget is spectacular. Like, it's ridiculous how good that show looks. And so I feel like you're kind of getting into a Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones thing. You've basically got 2 sci-fi shows coming out around the same time. And just, there was so many nods to Foundation about, with the whole religious element and the whole... But yeah, I mean, I think I need to watch more of it so I have more thoughts on it. But I did enjoy it. And I mean, it's definitely, I'd say it's definitely right up your street. When you were like, Space Witches, yes, I'm there. Not gay space witches yet, but there has to be
what I was gonna ask. Is it gay?
Yeah. Slightly. I think it's slightly gay, a little bit gay. Yeah, in parts of it. I'm just trying to remember. There was a club scene which I didn't get in June, so I was quite. There's a club June. There's space cocaine, which I really enjoyed. I was like, okay, so like a carrot. No, I don't want to get into the plot. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I just don't see. It could be one of these things that shocks us. So you get your 6 episodes, you're like, give us more. We want multiple seasons of this show now. And they could do it because it's 10,000 years before the main films. But you've still got the family. So it's very House of the Dragon. And they go, oh, look, there's an Atreides, there's a Carino, there's a Harkonnen. The last thing I'm going to talk about before I get to, that's a lie, because I've got 2 more things. I got 2 more things I'm going to talk about in this episode. We all enjoy a bit of trashy TV once in a while. And I was trying to find something for me and my dad to watch together, where we finished our most recent show. And that trashy show is on Amazon Prime, and it is called Paris Has Fallen. And it is a TV spin-off of the Has Fallen franchise, which starred Gerard Butler, which I have not watched any of, you'd be surprised to know, because I just looked at both trailers and went, these look terrible. I do not want to watch these films.
But I've seen the trailers. I mean, it's one of those where you've seen the trailer. I think you've seen the movie.
Yeah. And I just I've got no interest in watching these. It's Gerard Butler just shooting everyone and saving the president. And I think there was London Has Fallen and was it White House?
Washington? Was it Washington? It takes place in the White House, yeah.
If you're getting annoyed by us not knowing anything to this, don't. It's really not worth the hassle.
No.
But I would say this show is exec produced by Gerard Butler, and everyone's like, oh, is he going to tap? I was like, I don't see how, because this is a completely different story. However, Marie, have you ever watched 24 back in the day?
I think I saw like 1 episode, never.
I imagine it's
properly.
quite dated. Yeah, I imagine it's quite dated now, but because it was due to come out right as 9/11 happened, and there's a plane exploding in the first episode. A terrorist blows up a plane, so it got delayed for a few years. But then it took off, and it became so cheesy and so fun. It was basically Kiefer Sutherland just running around flat out murdering terrorists every week. And this is kind of a modern day version of that show if you reverse the roles a little bit. So the plot is a former Foreign Legion soldier. So you're thinking, oh, French Foreign Legion. Except the guy's English who was at the Foreign Legion. And he's played by Sean Harris, who, if you remember, I think, was he one of the villains in Mission Impossible Fallout? Or was it Jared Harris? There was a Harris in one of them.
Impossible's kind of blur into one.
Yeah. He's a redhead guy, and he plays an absolute psycho. But like all good villains, he is genuinely terrifying because he believes he's in the right, and they give him a really sympathetic backstory. So you're kind of like, well, you are murdering lots of people, but also I kind of see your point of view. So for to show us this cheesy and fun, I wouldn't expect that character to have that depth. He's really good. But trying to take him down is Rita Aria, and that is Lila from the Umbrella Academy. And she's like the MI5 agent, and she's basically just playing Lila again. Oh, and it's slightly gay because she's got a really tall, she's exceptionally tall artist, drug addict girlfriend in the show who doesn't know what her day job is as like an MI5. assassin. So, I love it. She just wanders in. Oh, how is your name? Like she's covered it. She's like, what's that on your collar? Oh, it's nothing. When it's clearly about 5 liters of someone's blood. But she's just really funny. Like she gets all the cool action scenes. She gets thrown through God knows how many things in the first couple of episodes. And what I like is she gets all her funny quips as well. She gets all the best lines in it. And of course, to play off that, you've got to team her up with like a very brooding French counterpart. And this is a guy called Vincent, who's played by Tufik Shalab. And that was a very hard name to pronounce. And he's like the brooding guy, but he's also very good at his job. And he's definitely got a secret that we find out very early on. And what I like about this show is the show's at only 43 to 44 minutes long. You just zoom through plot and story in this. And the big difference with 24 is 24, they had to drag out the plot for 24 episodes because it was all real time. This is only 8 episodes. So it kind of does tickle the standard tropes of the action genre, but they deal with it so swiftly. It's like, oh, they're definitely going to kidnap this guy's daughter and hold her to ransom. Oh, but it's resolved within about 20 minutes of it happening. It's not a plot point that drags out. Oh, they're going to steal it. They're going to hijack an airplane. Oh, but we got someone else to fit in before the episode. So that's, you just watch it go, they are going so, and because it's cheesy, because it's funny and so fast moving, you never bored. And so this is what action shows should be, I think. Not a great show by any stretch of the imagination, but if you want a fun and easy watch with some mindless action, it's a lot better than Citadel. And moving on, let's talk one more brief Oscar film review, and that is the winner of this year's Palme d'Or at Cannes, Anora, which is a romantic comedy drama written, directed, and edited by Sean Baker, whose last 2 films, Red Rocket and The Florida Project, brought him to kind of wider attention. And Anora is a story of Annie, a young stripper/sex worker from Brooklyn, played magnificently by Mikey Madison. And she works in this kind of, it says upper class Manhattan strip. I was like, it's a strip club. I don't see how the class thing works. So do better, Google. And anyway, I'll do better, Neil, for not writing that down, copying it. But anyway, she hits it off with a young Ivan, the immature son of a wealthy Russian oligarch. They hit it off. It's like a modern day Pretty Woman on speed with some amazingly edited sequences that shows their budding romance over the course of the week where he's hired her for. In a drug-fueled haze, they decide to get married in Vegas, but why not? And it's just really funny and sweet, the start of it. You're like, these people are idiots, but also they're really endearing, and you kind of really buy the relationship. And everything is great until about half an hour into the film, until Ivan's parents find out about the marriage. And then they send their unmeaning thugs over to get it annulled. And then chaos and comedy ensue. And look, this film was not what I expected in that at the start, it's a really realistic portrayal, or so I'm told, of what sex work's like. And there's never any judgments about Annie's way of life from anyone involved with her. And she sees, oh, there could be a way out of this life, though, by marriage to Ivan, who's stupidly rich. What I didn't expect is the tonal change of this film, because it really feels like 3 different films straddling 3 different genres. The first part is like this picture perfect, rom-com as they meet, falling up, and have a great time indulging in pretty much everything. Next, we get an almost slapstick comedy bit with a hint of menace when the henchmen turn up and are trying to force them to get the marriage annulled. And it's just really funny, but because they're obviously Armenian gangsters and Russian gangsters, you're like, is this going to turn super dark at any point? And you don't know. And as you're watching it, there's always that. But then it gets really funny. You're like, oh, is the tone? I don't know. And it's tense because of that. You're not sure where the film's going to go. And I will stop and not say what the last third of the film is, except it takes a bit more of a dramatic road, and it has an electric final scene, which I think people will be talking about for ages. It's like there's so many articles I've read out there written about the final scene where people are trying to interpret why what happens in the final scene happens and the choices the characters make, and it's so well done. I mean, I can see Oscar nominations for this for best film, best screenplay, best editing and direction, and best actress for Mikey Madison. I mean, I think I'd only ever seen her in Scream before, but also a special shout out to Yura Borisov. He plays like a really sympathetic henchman called Ego, and all this shit that's going down in the film, especially from the second part of it, happens on his birthday. And it's just a really funny bit where someone said, so how was your day? He's like, it was my birthday. And he's like, all this happened on your birthday? And it's just like he's really funny. It's funny, actually, he got like Russian Actor of the Year or like the Russian Awards. He's like GQ. He's like a big deal apparently in Russia, but he is really good in this as well. So, yeah, also because of the amount of sex and nudity in this film near the start, I would just say definitely not one to watch for your parents, people.
Oh, that's a good warning. It's a good warning. I
Very good
really want to
warning.
watch it, but it's like reached the like vacuum of not being shown in Portugal. It's still, I really need to figure out the logic of what movies we get and what movies we don't. We
There's
Live in
none.
Time is still showing.
Whereas in England, We Live in Time, we are still waiting for the one preview of it before it comes out in January, over 2 months from now. It's insane. It's
Yeah.
insane.
I don't know what like how it works here in Portugal. It's very confusing.
You need like a little art house cinema somewhere, don't you? We've got a few of those creeping up around here now, which is cool.
We do have one, but once again, Portugal does not know how to design a website. So I usually find out something is showing like 2 days later. It's really frustrating.
Right. Any listeners in Portugal, other than People Marino, or People Marino who should let her know where she can go to see indie and world cinema films and like art house films in Portugal, please let us know. Get in touch and tell us where and when, or like apps we can sign up to, or websites she can sign up to let her know where to see all the cool films. Now we are moving on to our spoiler section. Take it away, Ben.
Friends, Romans, TV watchers, spoilers ahead.
Next up, What We Do echoes in eternity, or 24 years later, as we finally get Ridley Scott's Gladiator 2, starring Paul Mescal as the son of Russell Crowe's Maximus from the original. And I mean, this is a spoiler review, but also that's literally not a spoiler because they put it in the fucking trailer.
Yep, they did.
So when we start with Mescal's Hanno, and I had to Google that because I had no idea what they was calling him in the film. Why is he living in Numidia? None of this makes any sense until later on in the film, hopefully when you can tell it. And so the film starts with Hanno living in Numidia with his arrow shooting wife, and they all seem quite happy there. When the Romans invade, led by German Acacius, played by Pedro Pascal, and of course, his wife gets fridged almost immediately, and he's captured and taken as a slave. He then comes under the tutelage of Denzel Washington's arms dealer / gladiator training school, I guess, Macrinus, and he sees Hanno's skill in the arena and promises him Acacius' head if he can keep winning, which is kind of obvious because you kind of have to keep winning, otherwise he'd be dead. So actually, it's a pretty good deal for Hanno, you know. He could have just said, yeah, just keep winning. Didn't actually have to promise him anything. I just remember thinking again, well, you're putting him out there to like fight to the death every day, or like every day he goes in a fight. So promising him like the general's head, okay, yeah, you could promise him anything because it doesn't really matter because you're not going to deliver if you did actually get killed by the baboon in the first fight. We then dive into all the political backstabbing and double crosses as Washington's Macrinus begins his play for power against the two very unpopular co-emperors, Pieta and Carcella, played superbly as useless man-children by Joseph Quinn and Fred Heschinger and his pet monkey. And the trailer, actually, I'll give it credit because at the time everyone was like, oh, well, that spoils that scene. And no, it didn't show us any of the plot that was kind of going on. They made it look like, I think, that Pascal's Acacius and Hanno was going to be the big showdown at the end of the film. And it's not that. So I think they have cleverly hid that. And because, you know, Washington, he's the main villain, really. He is. And so I think they hid that quite well. What do you think?
They did. I mean, the plot isn't great. And
Yeah.
to be honest, I find it funny because I also like thought that she was fridged, but then when her death had like no consequences on Hanno whatsoever, so does it even count as fridging? Like it's just one thing that was really unclear about this movie was the character motivation. Like it was just like he seems almost content with the situation. Like he gets captured by the Romans, he gets boarded on the ship, and the whole time he's just like, okay, I guess this is it. And I was just like, okay. I'm like, and then it kind of makes, in a way, sense because he knows Rome and he knows what's going to happen to him and he goes back to Rome. But it still like felt a bit weird. I think it would have made more sense if she survived and his goal was to get back to her. And that would have been a much better character motivation. Yeah, the trailers did like set up the conflict between like him and Pascal. But the thing is, like that conflict was in a way unwarranted. It was, I mean, maybe it's because it's really hard to hate Daddy Pascal, but it's just, I don't know, there was no friction there whatsoever. When he was just like, I want the general's head, I was just like, but why? Like
Yeah.
he was just there. Like it's not like he was like a big evil dude. No, like he did a role, and as someone who grew up in Rome, you should know like the roles that generals play. They just follow orders. He didn't look like he wasn't like, ha ha, killed your wife. And he wasn't even the one who like did the blow. So it was like it just didn't make sense. And so like that battle between them felt to like it was like okay, it was fine. Like obviously love seeing those two men like tussle around in the dirt, but still it was just like and then like them just like coming to like a resolution in the arena. It was just like okay, like I never thought I would say this because Ridley Scott, like with the majority of his movies, he desperately like his editors need to be able to say no to him because he has like such a like tendency to like outstretch and like add like useless scenes. This could have benefited with some more scenes, like because we jumped from like A to B so fast. We're just like,
Yeah.
okay, how did we get here?
But the plot is the weakest part of the whole
Yeah.
film. I mean, I think cinematography, music,
The music. I loved
the performances generally are really good.
Yeah, I love the
Generally.
opening. I love the opening and the animation of the previous movie. I love that
Yeah.
and the music. And it got me like really, really hyped. And I also really liked the first battle. I thought the first battle did a great job more with Pascal than Pascal's character. But like them like attacking the village and with the boats, and I think that was good. And then it just kind of like and I think it ended way too soon. I would have liked to see that fight go on a bit more.
I wonder if he's going to do like he's got a longer cut because remember his Napoleon film that came out and it was like 2 hours 40 or something like that. And there's a new 4.5 hour cut on Apple that they just dropped, and
Oh,
I'm really
really?
tempted to go back and watch it.
I didn't go watch Napoleon because it's something that I was just had zero interest in. And
Do you know what? I think you would like Napoleon because it's not what you think. It is half war film, and then the other half of it is Joaquin Phoenix being a weird sex pest with his wife, played by Vanessa Kirby, and then her just like, and it's just like it's literally he walks up, looks through his binoculars, blows something up in a distance, and everyone hails him a hero, and then it cuts back to him being weird with his wife back home because he thinks she's cheating on him, which she usually is. And it's just, but she is kind of weird power dynamic where she kind of more or less controls him, despite him being the most powerful man in France. I really enjoyed Napoleon actually. I think Ridley Scott's on quite a good run recently. I mean, he's so prolific for his age. I mean, The Last Duel. Have you seen The Last Duel?
No.
Oh, that is worth checking out. That is so underrated. That's the Ben Affleck,
Yeah.
Matt Damon, Jodie Comer one, and Adam Driver. And it's all to do, and it's the story told from 3 different points of view about did one of them rape the other one's wife. And there's not a lot of difference in some of the tellings, which makes it really, you have to read. But I think it's the most fun Ben Affleck's had in a film in years. I was just watching it going, Ben Affleck is absolutely stealing every scene he's in as like a drunken knobhead thing. But yeah, so I think Last Duel, really good. Napoleon I enjoyed. I'd say it's like a 3.5 star out of 5. It's just a strange film. Destiny has bought me these pork chops, is what Joaquin Phoenix yells at one point in the film, which is one of the best lines of all time in any film, I believe, and I could stick to it. So yeah, sorry. Back to Gladiator. Yeah, I think a lot of people were worried about Mexico, like kind of not living up to Russell Crowe's kind of maximum screen, and I think you kind of hit that on head there. He seems he's a bit too relaxed at the start. You know, you look at Crowe, and he looks absolutely like he's going to murder everyone in every scene. He's just fighting all the time, and like you say, you don't get that from Mexico. He's a bit more internal with like the fight. He doesn't convey the rage the same way Crowe did. But I still think he's perfectly fine in it, like a leading man role. Like he's proved he can carry a big film. You know, like the accents or thing. His speeches are good. He nails the action, and I remember a lot of people say, "Well, he's not as big as Russell Crowe." They hid that again from the trailers because he's massive when you see him in it, isn't he? He's done the work
he
in the
is
gym.
ripped. I mean, yeah. No, I think he does do a good job. And I hate to say it, I think it boils down to direction. Like I don't think I think he was directed quite well. I think another thing that like Paul Mescal in general is extremely charismatic, and he like that charisma is shown through the character. It's just I don't think Ridley knew what to do with it. Like there was just like the scene like after the monkeys where like everyone was like making the monkey noises at him. And it's just like, well, yeah, Crow would have like freaked out and probably beat someone up in that scene, but he kind of just laughed it off to show that he was a man of the people. And I was just like, I get what you're doing here, but you need to like show this a bit more. Like it's like that he is a natural born leader, but then again, that needs to be earned.
You could have, like what you were saying about it, needed other scenes added in to get it from A to B. Like when he was on the boat and looking all relaxed, you could have had a scene after he'd been kidnapped where he's like, sorry, when he's been taken as a slave and he's like fighting and trying to do it, and they're like, and then it just takes one of the other characters to say to him, "Stop fighting, otherwise they'll kill you."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's all you needed. Just
or
something
even
like that.
he's saying it to another character because then we know he knows that what's gonna come. It's just like establish him as a leader. Like we did see it in the first battle that he's a talented leader and he knows what he's doing. But then like for the rest of the movie, he's not with his men, I believe, from the first battle, which I think would have made even more sense if he was like with the men of his first of what he was captured with, and then his goal is to try to keep his men safe and bring. That's another good character motivation to keep through, and then you show like. And then you introduce new gladiators who like ignore him as a leader because you kind of had that with the rhino scene where he's like telling the men what to do and one of them is like, I'm not listening to you, and then he gets speared. But it's at the same time, it's just like, well, yes, but why listen to him? Like, again, it needs to be earned. Like the characters need to know they need to like listen to him.
It's one of these things where it feels like it's just put together by like, we need to get from A to B. It doesn't matter how we get there. Because we need to get from this scene to this scene. You go fill in the blanks is what it feels like it's been said to the scriptwriters. Get back to Pedro. I'm glad that he's in it a lot more than he was. Sadly, though, his performance in arenas continues to be bad. I mean, he did do better in this one, and
he did better, far less violent. He ended up more of like a head shock than a bowl of soup or something. Like,
I mean, we all knew he was going to die in this film, but at least he was in it more than we thought. And like you say, he's my second favorite character behind the one we're going to talk about in a minute in the film. Because he has that, you really get from that kind of everyman that he doesn't like the Emperors, obviously, straight away.
Yeah.
He disrespects him from day one. You're like, okay, come on, Pedro, you've done some shit. And you can tell he just doesn't want to do it, but he has to maintain, like, where, if he doesn't do it, then he's going to be very like, well, what happened where he gets thrown into the thing as well. I mean, I think he was one of the best characters in the film. I love the backstory. I love the fact that he's also shagging the other guy's mum, Mescal's mum, Anna's mum. But like, and he's got the best arc. I think he's got one of the best arcs of it because he's like, it's just more layered. It's not like an obvious revenge thing. He's doing it because he has to, because he's being forced to do it. He doesn't want to, and he's always looking for a way out of it. And then when he starts planning his little insurrection, that sadly goes wrong because of the people, the servants telling on him. But like Mescal's arc is rich. Like you say, it's basically it seems like you killed my wife, therefore I will kill you. And also my mum sent me away, so I'm going to sulk and not tell people I'm actually the grandson of a really popular emperor. That kind of annoyed me. Like, why did he suddenly decide? Because when he first meets his mum, he's like, pretends like he doesn't know her almost. And you're like, but you are. And then you see the flashback where he's sent away straight after the first film. And you're like, but you are clearly old enough to remember all this. So what, are you pissed off that she sent you away? Well, he says, doesn't he? That, oh, yeah, well, you sent me away and you didn't come back for me. But yeah, because you would have been killed. And like, again, she had good reasoning.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but I feel that maybe should have been front loaded in near the start of the film a bit more when we see the reason why she sent him away. So then it's a bit more understandable when he comes back. He's just like, well, why are you so angry at your mum?
Yeah, because I tried to like make it a mystery, and then they like revealed it in the trailer. I was just like, okay, we know he's his son. Which also like this. I've only seen Gladiator 1 now once, and it was a very, very long time ago. So my memory of it is a bit hazy. But then, was the first movie the course of 12 years?
I can't remember. I've seen it a lot over the years, but
because I was talking to my other friend about this, and she was just like, "I don't think he was his son in the movie. I don't, but I'm not sure. I cannot remember." Yeah, I don't know. I think that's one thing that actually did really hurt the movie is trying to call it back to the original. I much would have preferred if this was a standalone, like that like it's like the similar story set a few more years later with different characters.
Same story. It's the same story.
It is
It's
the same
literally the
story,
same.
but I think them trying to constantly refer to the first one hurt it more than it actually helped, in my opinion.
I mean, I thought they did a really good color grading the original stuff into the new one. I thought they matched that really well.
That
'Cause
that
you
was
kind of,
good, but I don't know. I don't think it was necessary.
well, let's talk visuals. I mean, I thought it looked generally amazing. Although Coliseum scene, flooded Coliseum scene. Well, I believe you have some gripes with that.
Okay. Okay. So I actually have been researching this all day. So naval battles did take place in the Colosseum, but it was in the very early stages of the Colosseum first being built. And by the time they like built the cages underneath and where the animals were housed, it was no longer possible. So I mean, we know Ridley never like aims for historically accuracy. He like shits on historians. So like the naval battles, it's plausible. One thing that is completely implausible is the sharks, because when they flooded the Coliseum, they flooded it from a nearby river, so it would have been river water, not sea water. And second of all, where would they house the sharks when the Coliseum wasn't flooded? Like, where did they keep the sharks, Neil? It does not make sense. Where did the sharks come from? Everyone knows sharks are impossible to keep. Yeah, I get it's a nice spectacle, but no.
Would you say this scene jumped the shark then? Oh dear. Yeah, I mean, I really literally reckon it was as simple as Ridley going, "Did they ever have them in here?" Yes, they did once. But and then they did the research was like, but it didn't happen when it was like, doesn't matter. If they did it, we're doing it. Also, I
Oh,
want sharks in there.
yeah.
And then someone probably said, but where would we keep them? Well, your question. I was like, I don't care. I want a fucking shark eating someone when I get knocked off a boat. That's cinema. And then he walked off because he so Ridley Scott.
Also, it was usually the finale of the games, not right in the middle. The naval battle was usually like the end, the final days of the game, so not in the middle either. So the positioning of them doesn't make sense either.
And there you have it. There is a definitive answer on the water and flooded Coliseum. Until we get a bunch of actual historians giving you grief now.
Another historical inaccuracy. I'm pretty sure the Romans did not wear underwear, but I'm forgiving them on that, because otherwise we would have had dangly bits all over the place. Like, because their tunics would ride up and you would see like boxers, and I was just like, oh, I don't think that's accurate. But
I feel like that could be in the extended cut and also, bring in a lot more money for a certain audience. Let's move on to, I remember when we mentioned we were talking off cam, Connie Nielsen. He was so good in the first and just not here.
yeah, she like the scenes like she was in like almost like got like ruined it for me. Her like I always feel bad criticizing someone's acting because like I'm a terrible actress myself. So it's like, but her line delivery was so wooden. It had no personality. And once again, how can you not have chemistry with Pedro Pascal? Like, I did not believe their relationship whatsoever. And it's like, how can you not have chemistry with Pascal? And like, there's some moments like she had like with her son, and even her death. I mean, there's one when she dies, there's one moment where it's clear it's ADR because like she says something but her mouth isn't moving, and it's just like, oh no. Yeah, it didn't work for me.
Yeah, I mean, I feel a lot of the blame has to go on the scripts as well. When you've got
Yeah.
lines that bad, and like again, every one of her lines was exposition to tie scene A to scene B to get you from one
Yeah.
place to the other.
And
so
to tie
I
it to the previous movie, which again was unnecessary.
that's one thing I really didn't like actually is when they literally said lines from the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
When he says that, oh, what echoes in eternity? I was like, no. Can we just in legacy films? Can we not have someone say the line from the original film, please? It's cheap, it's cheesy, and it just doesn't work.
Although I did kind of like the reasoning for that. He was just like, "Oh, I just read it on a tomb somewhere." Like I did.
Yeah,
I
the
thought that
throwaway
was
line
funny.
afterwards kind of made it work, actually. Yeah, a little bit. It made it less offensive to me.
Mhm.
Little shout out to Ravi. I really like Ravi. I wish he could have been anymore. He was a good character. And again, that charisma you saw, what we say about Mescal not lacking in another scene. Everything with Ravi, the two of them were like, you got that friendship and that bond that grew out of nothing really quickly with them two.
Yeah, but once again, that like signature line from the trailer, which is like there'll be plenty of suffering in the next life. I don't know why you're inflicting so much on yourself right now. Like that was like in all the trailers. And once again, in the movie, it fell flat because you did not know his motivation. You were like, yes, why are you suffering, dude? Like, seriously. Like, it was one of those lines where it, like, worked in the trailer, but it did not work in context.
And now we have to move on to the twins, Fred Hexninger and Joseph Quinn, who I thought did so well with what they had. Because again, I feel this is one of those films where the script's not great, the actors kind of have to take the material and just do what they want. Like Quinn was brilliant. Like the way he goes kind of really wild-eyed and like you can kind of tell he's manipulating his brother all the time. And I didn't realize until like halfway through that, oh, wait a minute. Is like, his brother has got a brain problem, the younger guy with a monkey. And so that kind of explains it all.
Yeah, I think it was syphilis, wasn't it? Like
Or something like that. Yeah, he had some kind of degenerative brain disease of Roman times. So yeah, it's probably syphilis.
Yeah, because he says it started with his balls, so I was just like, okay, that's definitely some sort of sexual transmitted disease. I don't know. That's how I interpret it.
Did you again? And you're going to boo the film for this, Marie. You heard that Denzel Washington had a kiss with another man cut from the film.
Yes,
they filmed it, they shot it, and then they decided to cut it.
I heard about that. It's I mean, yeah, it drives me absolutely up the wall.
Boo.
Like, yeah,
I love the fact that Washington's just come out and mentioned it in all his interviews as well.
mm-hmm.
Kind of throwing shade at the company over that as well.
Mm-hmm. But with the performances with the twins, I'm not sure if you felt like that way. Like some of Joseph Quinn's line delivery came like really hoarse and like disjointed, and it kind of matched the character, but it also kind of felt like Ridley made him repeat the line over and over again until he lost his voice. Like because because I was just like, okay, I can't understand you, mate. Like, what are you saying?
I think it's probably to get that kind of exact reaction from when he's been shouting a lot, because they were quite explosive in their performances. Again, yeah, I thought they did really well with what they did. I mean, Quinn's having a hell of a time in Strange Things now. He's got that. I keep meaning to watch it. It's not out. It's out on digital, but I haven't seen it yet. The new Quiet Place film where he's the lead in that as well with Lupita Nyong'o. So I really want to see that. But you have to talk about the man, the legend, the multiple Oscar winner, and the man who basically is playing his role from Training Day, but just in ancient Rome, Mr. Denzel Washington as Macrinus, who is the villain of the piece. And he is awesome in his film, isn't he?
He is the best part. He is and which really surprised me. I've never seen Training Day, so but he has the best performance hands down in my opinion. He is so good in it. Not just I think in the performance, he also was the one who felt most comfortable with the costumes. Like as someone who's studied costume design and worked in that area for like half a second in my life, he really played with his robes, like embraced it. It honestly looked like those clothes belonged to him, which is like really something. This is something I nerd out about. But he like made that part of his performance as well, which I really appreciated. I think it helped because his motivation was clear from the beginning. But yeah, I did not expect him to be the standout of this movie.
I feel like. I don't know. I feel from the early kind of buzz on the film, everyone was like, yeah, just blew another space on your shelf for another Oscar, Denzel. I mean, it'll be a supporting actor as well, because obviously Mescal's the lead. I don't see Mescal getting nominated, but I feel this could get a few technical ones, it definitely won't be up for scripts. I just still wasn't sure which of the twins he was going to kill. And then just that line later was like, well, if they riot, then I'm just going to kill the other one and bring them their head. And it was just like, holy fuck.
Okay, side note, Joseph Quinn's severed head did not look anything like him. Like, I'm not the only one who thought that, right?
I didn't have an issue with it when I saw it, to be honest. I was just like, yeah, that's a severed head. And that's not going to last long.
Maybe it's again my background with costuming and props, so I was just like, that does not look anything like him.
You may have a bit more of an eye for it than the average cinema goer. Now, a little bit of stuff I added last minute to this was that Gladiator 2 only took 51 days to film, which is insane for a film of this size and scale. And it only cost just over, take note, MCU and DC, it cost just over 100 million. And they actually built that Coliseum and filled with actual extras. I mean, there's obviously a bit of CGI enhancements in places, but it's not like, animals. That's just, obviously. Right? You're not allowed to, have rhinos and sharks. these days. In
Also, what the
films
fuck
like
were
that.
those monkeys? They just looked really bad.
Yeah, they look like CGI super monkeys. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
like
looked
their
a bit.
arms, and it looks like a jaguar with a monkey's head. No.
But what Scott said as well, he had 11 cameras going at once the whole time to capture everything in one go,
Yeah, well,
and that
that's
the
like
actors were just
become
like,
Ridley's trademark. Heard like quite a lot of actors who've worked with him before say that he does that.
but they were just sort of saying he's like, if you know what you're doing, you can do it. If you don't know what you're doing with 11 cameras, it's a fucking mess. Like
Yeah.
I read in the interview, and I think, but because they did it, and also as it cost only over 100 million, it comes out in the States this weekend as we record this. It came out in the UK a week ago, so we've already seen it, and you got it in Portugal before America. There you go.
Very rare.
Very rare. But I think it took something like 83 million in the first week, just internationally, before it's opened in the States and Asia. So apparently Gladiator 3 is in the cards.
Oh, what really?
Yep. Mescal has said he's down to come back for it. And Scott, and now interpret this how you would. He got the idea recently from speaking to Francis Ford Coppola. I still haven't seen Megalopolis yet, and
I won't.
I'm going to, just because I just need to. I need to watch the car over here. I've already seen a supercut of Aubrey Plaza's Best Bits, which is hilarious, and the Adam Driver Just Go Back to the Club line, which has been
Yeah.
made into a song. But so I need to see the whole film now. So the idea of it is going to be along the lines that Lucius is now the reluctant emperor and has to deal with all the politicking for a job he does on one. Same as Michael Corleone when he takes over in Godfather 3 as head of the family for a job he never wanted. I can kind of see that working.
I don't see how gladiators though fall into this though. Like, isn't that the
No,
whole point of Gladiator, the fights in the Coliseum and stuff like
I think
that?
you have to bring in a new character to be the new gladiator who's going to overthrow Mescal. I like the idea if you set it down the line that Mescal has become what he hated. Mescal said, I don't know when we're going to do it, but it's not going to be 12 years. So it sounds like it's going to be next. Because Ridley Scott is 86. So,
Oh, he is.
yep.
I have no idea. I mean, he has done so many movies that should not surprise me.
I think, and I was listening to another podcast the other day and they were saying, someone was saying about his output in like the last sort of 15, 20 years. And they said, is it a bit hit and miss? And I said, it's very hit and miss. He does one superb film, then one really average film, and then occasionally. But they said why he still keeps getting to make movies of that scale and size when a lot of his peers to the same age don't, is because he always brings them in on time and under budget and for less money than the studios want. And they always generally made their money back. I mean, the same year he did Napoleon and House of Gucci. I've got no interest in seeing House of Gucci. I hear it's terrible.
I've seen House of Gucci and I actually quite liked House of Gucci. Obviously, like
Really?
coming from a fashion background,
Okay.
I did see it with my dad, and it does have kind of a weird sex scene in that. So there is this like warning: watch with your parents. But I actually did enjoy House of Gucci. Now, to be honest, I don't know. Once again, Ridley shits on historians. I don't know how accurate to the story of Gucci it actually was because it's one of the brands that I've never really associated with. But in general, I thought it was an interesting watch. So I would recommend it.
Okay. It's just the Jared Leto and the dodgy Italian accents that were putting me off a little bit as well.
I mean, I've ranted about this before. You know how I feel about it, where like if they're meant to be speaking Italian, don't put an accent on it. It just doesn't make sense. It just then just have them talking their normal language. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's not a terrible watch.
Okay. Well, I think that about rounds us off with Sir Ridley and Gladiator 2 and potentially Gladiator 3. And next up, we're going to stay in Rome, but not ancient Rome, modern day Rome. That's a hell of a segue that I thought I would apply. Yet, from All Quiet on the Western Front director Edward Berger comes a papal thriller, Conclave, starring Ralph Fiennes, Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow, and Isabella Rossellini, and an incredibly dramatic, fictional conclave to appoint any pope. As I said earlier, I had very little interest in this film before I saw the trailer, and even the trailer, I was like, oh, it looks okay, but it's just... Then I saw it, and I was blown away by how much I enjoyed it. I'm stealing this from Twitter, but someone said, this is Mean Girls in the Vatican. And it really is. Marie, what did you think?
I really enjoyed it. I I mean, I am someone who is such a slut for cinematography and music, and like a great cinematography and great score. And this movie delivered on both, so I was already pleased in that. Yeah, I went into this not knowing anything about it. So, you recommended it to me, and oh, if like someone recommends me something, I usually don't watch the trailer. So I went in not seeing anything about it and just ready to like, oh, like been like taken for a ride uh and yeah, I think it is definitely one of the strongest of the year. It wouldn't like bump off anything from off my personal 10, but it was a very good movie.
What I like about it is, when it starts, obviously you've got Fine's character. Fine's plays Cardinal Lawrence, and he is the guy who's got to basically get everyone together and pick the new one. So when it started, I was like, oh, well, he's not going to be in the running then.
Mhm.
And then he is in the running. And that's what I like is there's a bit in the trailer actually when it's like, you got to beware of the men who want it. You actually want to elect someone who doesn't want it.
Mhm.
And you're just watching it going, okay, that's interesting. And I just love like Tucci is like the guy who everyone reckons should be the one to do it. He's the early choice. Then you got Lithgow's Cardinal Tremblay, a Canadian moderate who is just Mr. Shifty from day one. And
Mhm.
then you've got like the real kind of almost right wing traditionalist Cardinal Tedesco,
Mhm.
and of course, and then you've got Cardinal Adeyemi, the Nigerian one. And I love how you've got this kind of worlds coming together and all the different nationalities, and it just comes together so well. But of course, we then have the film shocker, the little known Mexican Archbishop, Vincent Cardinal
Benitez.
Benitez, was working in Afghanistan, who no one's heard of, but the late Pope decides to push in at the last minute. And I was kind of like, okay, you've dropped something there. I didn't think he was going to win it, though. I was waiting for something. I thought at some point, he was going to reveal something about one of the other ones and take them out of the running. I didn't think it was going to be where the
Yeah,
film gets to.
he was definitely like I like the second like he was introduced as news, I knew he was like some sort of Chekhov's gun. Like I was just like, okay, there's something here. I also really
Chekhov's
actually
Cardinal.
liked how he got introduced because it's like one of the like more like because it's a quite serious film, but it's one of the more funny moments where like Ray Fiennes' character is being approached and he's like, we have an issue with the Cardinals, and he's like, oh, don't tell me we've lost one already. Immediately thinking someone has died because these are
Oh,
incredibly old men
oh,
gathered
yeah.
together, and I thought that was really like a really funny line. And when they were like, actually no, we've gained one, his confusion was just like, wait, sorry, what do you mean we've just like another cardinal has just rocked up? Like that was like the like one moment of levity in the whole film, but but I thought that was really funny. That and one of the cardinals sitting outside and using an iPhone. I also really like that shot.
And it was like prison, wasn't it? They go outside for a smoke and then they have to go back in again.
Yeah, because they're
Uh,
completely sequestered from the outside world. They're not allowed to like have any outside information, so they're like locked in, and like the entire movie does kind of feel claustrophobic. Like you're in these like which looks like incredibly cold rooms because everything is like marble and black and
and those big shutters come down right at the start of the conclave and then they don't go up
exactly
till the end.
like I've been to the Vatican. Unfortunately, did not get to see the Sistine Chapel. Um,
I
because
did.
I
But the funniest thing about it was when you go in, they tell you it's signed like way beforehand. You are not allowed to take pictures of it. And everyone was there trying to take a picture of it. And what happens is the people in the room who work there start shushing everyone and telling them to be quiet or trying to tell them off. So when you're supposed to be there in this serene moment looking at this masterwork, all you can hear was people getting told off. But the whole time, it was bizarre. I was just like, because I remember we weren't allowed to film, obviously, professionally inside,
Mhm.
but I had a DSLR that shot HD video. So I was getting little bits of video here and there. I thought I'm not going to be stupid and try and get a shot of the Sistine Chapel. And it's amazing how many people asked me, guests were like, did you get Sistine Chapel? Well, no, because you're not allowed to. Oh, yeah, but I knew you were here professionally working on it. Yeah, but they didn't know I was coming. Like, I literally turned up with, oh, by the way, here's my pass from the ship. Cool. This wasn't sorted out at all. But filming outside was cool, getting all like the big shots of that and getting the guards and all that on camera. But it was a long fucking day going to the Vatican, man. It's a 3 hour bus ride from where the ship docked, one way.
Yeah, we
So I
were
only went there
there on
once.
a school trip, and the teachers did not like account of how long it took there to get there. So we only had like 20 minutes, and the teachers were always so strict. They're like, if you're late, we're gonna leave you behind and stuff like that. So like we were just like, well, I studied this in art history. I'm gonna go see it. And it was so badly signposted that I got lost and then like ran back to like the meeting point with our teachers, and our teachers weren't there because they were of course went to see it, and they just like left us all behind. And they're like, oh, we have to leave at this time promptly. They just completely fucked it up and ignored it, and I was so furious. I was this close. Like I was like just like around the corner, but I was just like, fuck, I'm gonna get in trouble. I need to run back. Anyway, I think we should get back to Conclave, but that's my story with the Sistine Chapel.
I mean, yeah, we at least we actually have, dear listener and viewers, we've actually been there. Well,
I've
kind
also
of.
been to the Coliseum. I've been twice.
Me. I've only been to the Coliseum once, but I snuck a camera and I snuck a tripod into the Coliseum, which you're not allowed to do. But there was a VIP tour from the ship with some like head office people, I think, and I somehow got placed on that one with them because they wanted someone from the ship with them. And so I thought, well, all the small print said you're not allowed to take a tripod in and professional film and blah, blah, blah. So I just put the tripod over my shoulder, had my bag, had my camera on top of the tripod, which was my SLR that does video, and no one said anything. So I cut inside and I was like, and no one said anything. So I just kept filming. Of course, you only get about 20 minutes, probably half hour at most there before you move on to the next spot. But I was like, holy shit, I'll have to send to you. Actually, I'll put the video up. I actually filmed the Coliseum, guys, so I will put that video up on our thread sometime. Fred, I've lost track. We're on all the social medias. Some of them. We're on Blue Sky now. Come and see us on Blue Sky, but we'll tell you about that later. Back to the Conclave. So let's talk about Isabella Rossellini. Who was brilliant, but didn't really have a lot to do, did she?
She didn't, but that's kind of like the whole point of it, to be honest. Like, even someone like her is overlooked. So, yeah, because it's like, it's the oldest patriarchy in the world. But I also did not know it was Isabella Rossellini. Like, my only, like the only time I saw her was that episode of Friends when Ross hits on her. So when I still like because she's on his list. So when I like looked up the cast for preparation for this episode, I was just like, oh, that's who she is.
Now, as we get as we get more into the film, because you see a bit in the trailer where the window explodes, like, well, what the hell's going to happen there?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a suicide bomber attacks the Vatican. You're just like, what?
Yeah, so that's like another like through line. Like there is like terror attacks happening while this conclave is in place, and obviously because they're cut off from the outside world, they don't really know the context of it. And I don't think we even learned the context of it behind it either.
No, I think it's done to give us that scene where obviously Tedesco, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, and Tedesco blames it and calls for the church to fight a war against Islam, basically there. And then, of course, that's when Cardinal Benitez stands up and, is more Pope than anyone else by saying, no, violence should not be met with violence. And obviously, he's seen the true cost of war in his time in the Congo, Baghdad, and all that, and Afghanistan. And of course, that speech there is what moves everyone else to vote for him to become the new Pope. And so you're like, okay, that's a cool film. That's a good story. What was with the little side story about the medical visits?
Yeah.
And then they dropped this on us at the end.
Yeah, that's the thing about this movie, because like I mean, there's so much politicking going around, and like Ralph Fiennes' character is trying to navigate all these threads like that are happening, and like trying to suss out like his like in a way competitors, but like I think he was telling the truth. I don't think he ever wanted the position. It's rare to see Ray Fiennes not play a villain. So like him actually playing like a genuine nice guy who just wants the person in charge. And like exploring all these, like, it's the Catholic Church, but there are these different factions of the Catholic Church. Like Stanley Tucci is like character is considered extremely left wing because he wants to give women more agency in the church. And then you've got
the Nigerian guy, Atimi, who's very anti-gay in it as well.
And then Cardinal Tedesco, who's like the worst one, who's like set up
the warmonger. Yeah,
he's like trying to navigate this, and then suddenly this new cardinal pops up, and now he's trying to figure out, okay, what the is going on with this guy? And like we get like brief snippets of conversation, and with like it's there, but it's like we don't pay too much attention to it because our focus is like mainly on, like, mine was always on Tremblay, on Lithgow's character, because I was just like, something, he seems dodgy, like what's going on here?
I like every time you got accused of something, it's like, no, it wasn't me.
Yeah,
I'm so disappointed that he
two-faced. Lithgow does like outraged, like comically outraged, so good, even in like a tone down. I mean, that's like was basically his character from Third Rock from the Sun, like
From the Sun,
always like
yeah.
comically outraged. And you can even see it here now. It's like slightly toned down. He does it so well, even when like everyone's standing against him. He's like, no, it's just a lie. Like, how dare you?
At the end with the reveal. So I wasn't 100%. So I'm looking at the Wikipedia for it, and it literally is. Benitez explains he was assigned male at birth, but did not know he had a uterus and ovaries until a recent appendectomy. He then goes on to explain he chose to keep his female organs, cancelling the medical visit, and states, "I am as God made me."
Yeah,
And then
so
obviously Lawrence agrees to keep Benitez's secret, and then he gets elected Pope.
yeah,
Pope Innocent.
Pope Innocent. Yeah, so it's revealed that he's intersex, which is when you're born with both female and male genitalia.
Okay.
And I mean, I think the entire point, like, yes, it was meant to be a reveal, but it's not meant to be like a shocking reveal how it's like framed. And I think it like ties in beautifully to like the speech that Ray Fiennes gives about faith, like in a world of doubt and chaos. Like if everything was straightforward, we wouldn't need faith, like something along those lines. And that's like kind of the whole point of Benitez. Like he is something new. He is something like the church has not seen before, even though intersex people do exist and are real and are valid. But obviously in the very sheltered world of the Catholic Church, that is something that is, well, they have an issue with gender, which I'm currently like.
We should be able to see in one of your one of Marie's videos.
One of my
quite
recent
soon.
videos, yeah, I'm pretty pissed off at the Vatican at this current moment. But but yeah, so it's like this like having faith, and like Benitez like proves that like the faith is earned in him, like because like he's the only one in that mix that does not have an ulterior motive. Like he like gains more support throughout the movie just by being himself, just by talking, and then obviously he gains the big support by the end. And like to us, he's like comes off as an innocent who just wants to play with turtles. Like it's
That came out of nowhere for me. I was like, and also when I first saw it, I wasn't sure what the film was trying to say at the end. That was what kind of was like, well, I think you've kind of summed it up better there than I have, because I didn't really have a clear view, and I was like, well, what are they trying to say by this at the end? That what is the filmmaker's message that he's trying to get across there?
I don't think that is the central message. One thing I did read an interview with the director, and one thing I really liked that he said about this story is that it can take place anywhere. Like this story can take place in the White House. It can take place in an office building. Like wherever there's a power vacuum, greedy men will like flaunt to it as vultures and try to secure the position. The framing is because it's based off a book. The framing of choosing a new pope is not essential to the story, which I thought was really interesting. And it's so true. You could reframe it and frame it to be like a presidential election and stuff like that.
I think if they did the same twist with a presidential election, there would be a lot more. Well, but it's funny though, isn't it?
Equally amount of outrage. I mean,
but it's funny because I'm not seeing a lot of people talking about the end of the film being controversial in any way, which I thought you would, and I'm not really seeing anything.
I mean, I have I did see one comment which made me laugh, where they were like, at that reveal I walked out. And I was just like, well,
cool,
you only had like 5 minutes left of the movie, babe. It's it's that it I know a movie about I did like a video about it, but like
Marie, I'm gonna beep the person's name you say because I don't want to give them any oxygen.
Yeah, no. I mean, but I think one of the main reasons for that is that this is still quite an indie film, and it's not something that a lot of people would gravitate to. So, and so I don't think that's why it's getting so much outrage. Outrage because I don't think
just because it's not big enough.
Exactly, it's not big enough. But then like
wait until the Oscars.
But then at the same time, it's like it's not meant to spark outrage. It's
no.
And it's just because
I think it's just those people who will have that reaction to it.
Yeah,
like
who get hung up on gender, which
out.
Is like the current state of the Catholic Church as well.
Do you know that it's going to be interesting because I really hope this goes on. It's definitely going to get nominated for a lot of Oscars. It's definitely going to win some Oscars, and then those type of films get a bump. And this is what I've always said about the Oscars. The Oscars, they aren't to celebrate the best films or the films, and they never celebrate the films that make the most money. They celebrate the more artier films that they want to make more money, and the actors that they want to push more into bigger roles, into franchises. You look at so many best actors; they then go and do big box office franchises after they won for a smaller film. And I think that's what the Oscars are. They are basically, let's promote our smaller films, get them in the front of a wider audience, and then all the people engaged from that, we then move over to the bigger films. And that's exactly the cycle of the Oscars generally. Occasionally, like a big film that's made loads of money and will get, like Wicked will probably be one of the ones next year where it gets a bunch of awards and is popular with like the general public. Gladiator maybe as well. So you do get them. Lord of the Rings is probably the best one. And as we know, fantasy, sci-fi, and horror never get nominated generally. Actually, sci-fi probably more than the others because I think, Place Encounters got nominated back in the day and all those kind of ones. And I'm getting very off point here. Let's wrap it up. Let's get away from the Vatican before, they still let Marie in.
I don't want to be let in. Maybe see the Sistine Chapel because I studied it, but yeah. Releasing some scathing videos currently, so
So we're going to go from the Vatican to, quite apt, the sewers of Gotham. With the Penguin. So this is a show that had no right in at all being as good as it is, and I think it's one of my shows of the year. So let's pick up a penguin. If you get that joke, great. If you don't, I'm not going to explain it to you. Look it up. Following on from Matt Reeves' The Batman, a film that flooded Gotham, and that Gotham is recovering after the events of that film, and now there is a power vacuum with the death of Carmine Falcone. And of course, Colin Farrell's Oswald Cobblepot is about to step in. Now, this for me is a show that people wanted Gotham to be all those years ago, an underworld crime saga. I remember when Gotham was first pitched, people were like, yeah, it's going to be like The Wire, but in Gotham. It's going to be like low-level crime and like corrupt detectives and, it's going to be like the real street crime in Gotham. Then was like, cool, do that. And then they didn't do that. They started it that way, and then it became almost as camp as the 60s Batman TV show. It become so super camp. Gotham. Did you ever watch Gotham?
Nope, no. I completely dismissed it. I'm a huge Batman fan. I grew up with Batman the animated series. I love the comics, although comics are expensive, so I haven't read them all. Obviously, that will also be impossible. Yeah, I'm a mega Batman fan. So when I heard the whole premise of Gotham and the fact that they didn't really have the rights to the majority of the characters, I was just like, no.
The thing we've got, and of course, the lead actor in Gotham is the dude from the OC, who isn't Seth, it's the other one, the boring guy, who's quite bland. When it was good, it was really good. For a few episodes, you're like, oh, this is absolutely top tier. And then it would be absolutely unwatchable shit in the next episode. They would turn characters for no reason. And like I say, it got so camp. I will say the guy who played the Riddler was amazing in it. And I saw him, bizarrely, the same actor. I did not realize it was him until I looked his name up. He plays the young Chevy Chase in the Saturday Night Live movie that's just come out. And it's bizarre. And I was like, how is this the same guy? And also, when they brought Cameron Monaghan in to play a proto-Joker in it, he was that good. People were demanding he be used in the films. Gotham was one of those shows that when it got to its final season, it limped over the line so badly that you just this is going to be another bottle episode because you have no budget to do a big shootout, haven't you? And everything they said it wasn't going to do, it did. It brought in every villain you could think of. It did it all back. Poison Ivy, and it was recast about 3 times. They just kept going back and forth on it. But this isn't a Gotham one. This is to talk about the show that everyone thought Gotham should have been, and that is a Penguin. And I've told so many people this who went, oh no, it's a comic book show. I'm not interested. And I went, no. This is people who like comic books trying to make The Sopranos. This is a gangster show, first and foremost. You can go in with absolutely no knowledge of Batman and any of this stuff, and you will enjoy it because it is a spectacularly well-written and acted crime drama about a low-level mobster trying to take over a city where he's viewed as less than by everyone else, and everyone underestimates him. Obviously, if you are a fan of Batman and the whole lore, there are some amazing Easter eggs in this. Marie, your overall thoughts on the show?
Yeah, I was extremely surprised. I mean, I liked the Batman. I didn't think it was perfect. There were some extremely cheesy lines in there. But the Batman also genuinely surprised me. And I have to say I did go into it with extremely low expectations. And
I think we all did, huh?
Yeah. And yeah, it really surprised me. But then, I just also remember the casting of Colin Farrell as the Penguin, and I was just like, okay, that's a bit odd casting. And then like seeing him in the Batman, he was like, okay, he's barely in it as well. Like, why would you go through all that like prosthetic work for just like a couple of scenes? But he was still really, really good. And then like bringing this character back for this, yeah, yeah, as you said, it had no right being this good. It genuinely surprised me of just how good it was. Episode 1 is one of the strongest because I think what this kind of didn't carry on throughout the entire series, but episode 1 is also kind of really funny. There's some really good funny lines in episode 1, and as the series goes on, it gets a lot darker. So I did like appreciate the levity of it. Like Colin Farrell is just unrecognizable in this role. Like if you didn't know who he was, like it's like unbelievable of like how much like this role like not just physically like changed like physically like the voice, everything. It's just like, but yeah, it was, I think, like peak television. It was like I also like probably will be one of my favorites of the no, is one of my favorites of the year. It's also the best, I think, depiction of Arkham that we've gotten like live action. It's very similar to the Arkham in the Batman the Animated Series.
I think what they've got so right is by making it grounded and less superhero-y and less what you'd expect from it, and going for a proper gangster drama.
Mm-hmm.
It makes the representation of all those bits you recognize from the films and the lore so much better. I mean,
a common mistake, I mean, we've talked about this before, that Marvel does, where they make the threat and the main plot of the show, TV, movie way too big. Like
100%.
like giant threat, and it's just like, no, like these are the stories of the like the people in the ground. And I actually did not know that this was a sequel series. I generally thought this was a prequel to the Batman, because I went in not knowing anything. And then of course I liked that it like took place after the events of the Batman and in this Gotham that's been destroyed by the Riddler, and who was actually genuinely affected by this, like all the bombs going off. It was,
and you see the low level working class poor people in Crown Point who are getting like, and that's brilliant. And that's where we bring in Vic.
Yeah.
And Vic.
Vic. Yeah, his character's brilliant. I loved seeing the perspective of that night, the events of the Riddler bombings from his eyes, and like the heart-wrenching moment, and like even though you knew what was going to happen, it still like really hit, like watching that giant wave of water go down and watching all these explosions go off.
And just his character development from like, scared. And I love the stutter. The stutter was such a great character thing because he has it, and it's such a bizarre relationship between him and, he's literally this close to getting murdered by him.
Mm-hmm.
In the start, and I kept thinking, is he or is he not going to shoot him in the first episode?
Yeah,
because he is the villain of the piece.
He is, and it's just like, and I think he was like adamant on killing him until like the very end, and it's just like the first scene they share in the car. It's just like you don't know how this is gonna go, and like just like him like trying to make like casual conversation about like where he grew up or like the slushies and stuff like that, and just like oh, like what's like, how is this gonna play out?
Well, and that's the bit where they're sitting there watching the sun come up as well.
Yeah.
In the end of the first episode, where Jose mentioned that the penguins like sunrises on the previous episode, a few episodes back, and then he went and Googled it, and apparently penguins like watching sunrises. So I was like, that's awesome. That is your penguin fun fact from Jose, who couldn't be here today. But and of course the other thing, and I just love how he shoots Alberto in episode 1. I was like, he's giving him all the shit, and they do such a good job of making you empathize for his character, but at the same time, he is a piece of shit.
He is, and but to be honest, they like to have this balance so well throughout the TV series that like you are rooting for him, and like I was like, no, it's not weird for like almost on his side, but like I like until like the final episode, I like was finally reminded like, oh no, this is a fucking humongous asshole. Like this is a bad guy. Like we are following the villain here, and like the technically like not the hero, but like the victim of the story is portrayed as the main villain, Sophia. And like when you like look at Sophia's character, you're like, oh shit. Like,
I absolutely loved Sophia. Her intro, just in the first episode, she has that shallow focus walking
yeah.
into focus from the background when Oz doesn't realize she's there. And then that was her first line. I've been rehabilitated. I was like, bullshit, you have not been rehabilitated.
But so menacing. But then at the same time, when you know the context of her arrest, you're like,
Oh,
oh shit.
that's for me why episode 4 I thought was the best of the series at that point. I was so high in episode 4 because it was her backstory. And in a show called The Penguin, not having him in it that much and focusing all on her character was just a masterstroke because it showed you all how her family screwed her up, how Oz screwed her over, all the shit she had to go through. And when she just absolutely kills Magpie in the prison, I was like, holy shit.
Oh, that was warranted. That character was pissing me off. She was so annoying. No, but yeah, that was a big holy shit moment. I mean, to be honest, my favorite of her moment was at the final episode, like when Burn Baby Burn, when she just torched everything. I think that was
That song is a cover of, I don't know who the artist performing the version in, but Where Did You Sleep Last Night is a Leadbelly song, but was most popularly covered by Nirvana on their Unplugged album. It's the last song they play on Unplugged. So, of course, it maintains the kind of Nirvana theme with Something in the Way being kind of like the main musical theme from the Batman. So when that hit, I was like, oh, what a song choice. And of course, the lyrics, my girl, where did you go? I'm going where the cold winds blow. In the pines, I was like, someone's getting taken out to the pines and murdered at some point. I was just like, that's definitely going to happen when you've got that song on there.
yeah.
And, oh, yeah, I mean, well, that's obviously a brilliant scene of her literally torching her life back there. And you kind of feel sorry for her because she's planning to get away. She's like, yeah, do you know what? Have it. I'm done. I don't want any of this bullshit. I got enough money that I can leave.
And the script is like so good, like you don't want her to get away, but when you think about it, you're like, oh no, she technically didn't do anything. Like she was
She
sent
did
to
murder
Arkham
her whole family.
by her
afterwards.
full well, yeah, okay. Her murdering her family was justified. They sent her to Arkham just because she says she rightfully suspected her father of murder. And then all her entire family turned against her and writing like letters saying that she's deranged and like murders animals. So she was like an actually like just innocent person. Although to be honest, she was not that innocent because she was happy to be the head of the family, and like obviously that does entail quite a lot of blood and murder. Like she's still part of the Falcone family, and she has no problem being part of the Falcone family and being the head of the Falcone family. But at the same time, like she's like made out to be the hangman, this like giant villain, and then you realize, oh no, it's not her.
Like I say, she was just Cristin Mililoti will get all the awards. If she isn't nailed on for Best Actress at the Emmys next year, I don't know who. There's not another performance. Actually, tell like Anna Sawai from Shogun will probably be up against her. So they'll be your two duking out for Best Actress, I imagine, at the Emmys next year. Getting on to episode 7 when we had, because like he always keep hinting at his brothers and mentioning his brothers. And what I love though, watching this show with my parents, the shock on their faces when it dawns on them every
That
time what he's
little
doing.
shit. Like, oh.
Absolutely. Yeah. What a mummy's boy.
Oh yeah, I think yeah, that is like when like I like properly like turned against the character. That was horrific. It's just like the way and the reason, like obviously I knew he had something to do with the death of his brothers.
See, I hadn't twigged that until the episode. I didn't know that it was him that was responsible. It's obvious in hindsight now looking back on it, but at the time I was like,
think he would be like the one actively responsible, like shutting them in a hole and like having them drown. I thought he may have like caused an accident and inadvertently like killed them, but no, he like made a conscious decision. Like, no, I want mommy's love. I'm taking out the competition.
Yeah, and then I thought his mum was great as well. She was so good because when she was being interrogated as well, I was like, oh, is she going to drop some information they do want us to know or don't want us to know? It was funny seeing the psychiatrist guy because he was from Sons of Anarchy. He was like one of the main guys in Alice. So weird not seeing him play a biker and apparently occasional sex toy for Sophia as well.
Oh yeah.
I mean, to be fair, she was scary. Talking about her looks, like in the last couple of episodes, she has that outfit change almost every scene as well. which I
Yeah.
thought was hilarious.
Shout out to also the costume design, because the costume design for her is again on point. Like the first time you see her, it's like she's like dressing to be part of the family. She's wearing a jacket, she's put together, like not showing any skin. And like as like it goes through, like her like arc goes through, like she shows more skin, but it's not like in a sexual way. It's like showing her scars because she like scratches herself because of the
Mm.
horror, and you can see scratches down her arm, you can see it along her neck. And like for a certain part of the show, she makes like an active effort to hide that. And then like at one point she's just like, fuck it, let them all think I'm insane, and like shows all her scars, which I thought was such a good like costume design choice. Like some of her looks are definitely in the cosplay like list for me.
I was wondering as well, because she saves her younger cousin, and I was like, and then later on in the final episodes, I forget it's 7 or 8 now, and she's like, she's not going to say anything. She only goes, I saw her mark, and I was like, she's not going to. I thought she was going to kill her cousin at that point as well, but then she
No.
does leave her
Yeah.
in a place like that herself.
I think no, because I think that's what's the turning point of a character, where she realized she made her little cousin into like a version of herself, which she didn't like seeing reflect back onto her, and then like realized she was caught up in all the death and destruction of the family.
I also liked well, not liked, but when Oz kills Moroni's family. That was, again, you're like, holy shit, I know he's the bad guy.
That just watching them burn.
But
Oh,
then in the next episode, when he's taunting him about it,
yeah.
I was like, going on about the smell of the hair, and I was like, holy shit. And it worked because the guy conked out and had a heart attack.
Yeah. And that's
I mean, he
the
made him
moment
that
where you
angry.
actually see Oz's true color, like and like he wants to be top dog. He wants to best everyone. And the fact that he died of a heart attack, you could see him like that like death in a way wasn't earned, and that just like
Yeah, because he keeps
actively
on at
like
him.
bothering him that he wasn't the one who actually killed him, but which I would still argue he did. Like
Well, he did. But then also he goes up, and I remember making this point literally to my friends who's watching it, but then he fires a bunch of shots at him,
yeah,
so I don't know one to question it. So if they
exactly.
come up, find the body, oh no, he killed him. So
Yeah.
yeah, he did do that. So yeah,
Like
again, just the fact that the show has that thought process in the writing, that every tiny little decision and every decision made in the show ties into the story and the arc of the characters. It's so
yeah.
well done.
But obviously there's still like this level of charisma there and there as well. And like, because I am someone who like needs to be able to like root for the main character, even if they're like the villain. It's why I could never get into Mad Men, because I wanted to punch Don Draper so fucking bad. Like I just could not deal with him on my screen.
I
Like I
could
need to
never
be
get
able
into
to
it
root for the character.
because
So like and like having this like extremely despicable narcissist of a character, but still like almost like cheering for him as he does these like horrible acts is
he's
like
because he's
weird.
dealing with worse people a lot of the time,
Yeah.
isn't he? So
Well, I
that's
mean,
kind of
I
how
don't
you do
think the
this type of show.
Maronis are worse, and I don't, to be honest, think the Falconis. I think they're all as bad as each other, and I think, in a way, he's. I mean, like, out of all like the horrific acts we see get done in this show, he's the main perpetrator.
I mean, I love some of the lines in like, so it's the bit where when he goes, "You're going to hell, sweetheart." And she's like, "I'll save you a seat." I was like,
Hmm.
"Oh, what a line!" And as I said, I thought early on, well, after I think it's episode 4 when Sophia becomes pretty much the main villain for quite a while, and she takes out her own family. It's like, she is not making it out of this series alive. I was like, the show's called The Penguin. It's not called Sophia Falcone. She's definitely not making it out alive. And even when in the last episode when he speaks to the Congress guy or the council guy to set her up, you completely forget about that. And the bit when like, he's driving her out to kill her, and you're thinking, oh shit, and he isn't. He's driving out to set her up, and I thought that was such a masterstroke. And I was just thinking, and I forgot that earlier scene, literally from about 10, 15 minutes earlier, where he's setting her up to be the fall guy. And the whole time was like, he's going to kill her. He's going to kill her. How's she going to get away? Is she going to get away? And they do such a good job of conveying just the menace in that scene. Because
Yeah.
if you watch any gangster show, especially since Sopranos, if you're being driven somewhere by someone and it's just two of you and they ask you to get out of the car, you're going to die. And he's so close. And then, of course, the police turn up. I was like, oh. And she was so close to getting away.
Yeah.
So close. And that's the worst thing for her, being back in Arkham.
In Arkham, yeah.
It's literally the worst thing. But I'm so happy, though, she's still on the board.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and so this kind of brings us up to the end of the series, where obviously that last thing we have to talk about is poor Vic. He killed the look of shock on my mum's face when he killed Vic. He's like, "No, what a bastard! He can't do that." And I was like, she absolutely was swearing at the TV when he did it, and I was like, he absolutely was going to, because in that scene, he realizes that Vic is his only friend, and that means Vic is his only weakness
Yeah.
that can be exploited, because now he's in charge of everything. If he's got no one to love him, he's got no one to be a friend, then he's got no weaknesses. And it's just so heartbreaking.
It is. And I think also that like how like because like the previous scene we watched like all the like second in commands take out the number one, like their boss. So I think that was weighing on him as well, even though I don't think Vic would ever do that. But yeah, and just the way he does it, because he turns like a hug into a death grip. It's just
I was literally just looking at my notes as we were saying this, and I was like, I like Vic's progression. Vic's maybe the nicest character in the show. Oz kills Vic. Motherfucker.
yeah.
But we then get, because like as we've said, Mark Hobblepot, she finally gets her penthouse. And again, that was just like, oh no, but
yeah, those last few moments were literally like, bleh, like it's just. I mean, like not only is like Oz is a narcissist, he's so delusional. Like he clings to his delusions. Like the previous scene with his like the last time his mom is like alive in the room with him, where he's still
brutal.
adamant that he did not kill his brothers, even though she knows the truth. She's like, I've always known, and he still like swears by the reality that he knows. And now his mom is brain dead, and he still like thinks like she's alive, and that, oh god. And then it's just like it's followed with the with like prostitute,
Oh,
well,
that
the
was
woman
so
of the
creepy and
night
weird.
dressed as his mother, and it's like
My note literally says, did he hire a prostitute to play his mum?
yeah.
This is weird. Question mark.
Yeah.
Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. I was just like, no.
Yeah.
And this brings us to the last two things in it, and that is we get the two links to Batman when we see Sophia in Arkham, and he goes, "Oh, here's a letter." She says she's your half sister. Her name's Selena Kyle, and I was like, "Of course!" I completely forgot about that. So I was like, "Okay, that means she's definitely going to be in the next Batman film, hopefully." You then got Oz standing there in his mansion, going, "Nothing can stop me." Bat signal drops in the sky.
Was so good. It was so good. That moment. I was just like, yep, I'm ready for Arpat to beat the shit out of him. Like he also left at a very bad time. Like I don't understand like Bruce's reasoning there. Like Gotham is like flooded and destroyed. Yeah, time to take a little vacation.
This is what they said. They were. I read an interview with the creator of the show, and he said they were toying at one point with having him cameo as Bruce Wayne, looking over Crown Heights and or like saying he's going to help, and he meets Vic there. But then they said but that was the only reason they had to have him in there, and it wasn't going to pay off anywhere else. So they decided to just keep him out of it and cut it before it was. I think they wrote it and it was planned, but then they decided to cut it before they did it.
But I think because he leaves Gotham at the end of the Batman, doesn't he? Like
Does he? Oh, does he leave with Selena?
No, they do that very dramatic
goes,
thing of like
bikes,
parting,
different
but
ways.
it's
That's
very
it.
unclear where he goes. Like she leaves Gotham, maybe he goes back to Gotham, but at the same time, like there is so much like death and destruction currently going on in Gotham. It would make sense. Like Batman had no clue what the fuck is going on there, like because it's all in the
because they were saying about
underground.
the bombs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I did like how that got the Penguin underground again, because that's where he's like traditionally lives in like Tim Burton ones and the comics. He lives
only
underground.
the Tim Burton ones. Like
Was it only a Tim Burton ones? Okay.
yeah, I mean the like the Penguin, like well the one that I'm most familiar one is the one of the animated series where he's like he's in the iceberg lounge, and he runs like a very sophisticated social club, and I think it's more that in comics. Only Tim Burton made him live in a sewer and eat raw fish.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Farrell was probably going to do that. So this moves us on. So do we think there will be a second series of the show, or they're going to move these characters into the next Batman film? I think they're going to be in the next film.
I don't think a second series would make that much sense.
No,
Mainly
there's
because
nowhere
now,
for the story.
yeah, for the story. Also, it's like this is like such a good like standalone, like the arcs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah, we'll definitely see it. I'm not even sure we're going to see Sophia right away, but like the Penguin might pop up. But I don't think he's going to be the main villain. Like that's the thing about Penguin. He's always in the background, but he's never really the main villain.
See, I'm not sure of this. Because from I know they hinted at another Joker, but I think everyone's sick of the Joker now. We don't enough Jokers, even if it is Barry Keoghan being him, and it would be
No, I
amazing.
know.
But
I don't like the thought that I've seen the Joker's penis. No, I just no. This is not. It's Barry Keoghan as the Joker is not working for me. Saltburn has forever ruined
it's
me.
he did a screen test for the
The
Riddler
Riddler, yeah, yeah. He was auditioning for the
and
Riddler, and then they were like, "Oh
dressed
no,
up as the Clockwork Orange guy and did that sequence from Clockwork Orange.
yeah."
And then it's like maybe not the Riddler, but maybe. And I don't want it to be the Joker again. What I would like, this is what I'd like him to do for the next Batman one. You've established the Riddler, who was awesome. You established the Penguin, and that's the problem they've got now. We've spent 10 hours, or 8 hours, sorry, 8 hours with Colin Farrell's Penguin. So they're going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting with whatever story is brought in for whoever the villain is to match that. So if anything, I think you need to focus the next Batman one a lot more on Pattinson as Bruce Wayne, not as Batman, because he is the Batman. And in that film, I think when we reviewed it a few years back, we said so much of the film he is Batman, and very rarely is he Bruce Wayne. So you need a lot more of him becoming the Bruce Wayne maybe first. You're going to identify so much more with Farrell's character because he's had so much more development because of the series than Pattinson's little that he's had to do so far.
I mean, to be honest, no, because they did such a good job of basically like, no, I wouldn't say character assassination, but like wanting to see this fucker get beat up. Um, I don't know. I don't think, yeah, as I said, I don't think the Penguin should be like the main villain. Don't think it's Joker. There are so many good Batman villains
Well,
out
do you
there.
remember? I wonder if they're just going to stick with the Riddler still and have the Riddler escape and team up with the Penguin.
No, I don't see that happening.
No?
I don't see that happening.
Do you remember in the very first episode, there was a bit on the train with the QR code? And if you scan the QR code, someone did this and it takes you to a website and it was something to do with like, the Riddler. I think they did such a good job with that. I don't think you need to introduce the classic villains, maybe. Or if you're going to keep it more grounded, have it be like Victor Zsasz or someone. That would work better with Farrell's and the Penguin thing, having like an assassin character come into it. I think you've got so many good characters on the board. Do you
Yeah, I
just
mean,
keep it a
there
crime? Do you keep it a crime one?
to keep a crime one. I mean, there is the Black Mask, who I don't think his betrayal in Birds of Prey counted.
Oh
Um,
God, I forgot about that. Yeah.
I don't think that's my quintessential Black Mask. It did kind of work for that type of movie, but if you want to like with the gangster element, Black Mask is like another like head. I mean, I personally, I was like a big fan of the animated series, even though maybe it's slightly problematic. I would love to see Baby Doll. Baby Doll is such a creepy villain.
Tell
And
me about Baby Doll. I don't know much about her at all.
so Baby Doll, I think she was introduced in the Batman the Animated Series for the first time. She is a woman who has a genetic condition where she looks forever young. So
Okay.
and she basically grew up on a TV show where she played the baby, but she was still playing the baby in her like late 30s and 60s, and that like really like affected it. And her arc is just so like heartbreaking. At one point, she gets with Killer Croc, which is a bit confusing, but it's so creepy, and I think she's such a like creepy villain. Like another one I think that would fit in this world very well is the ventriloquist. Like he can be a bit goofy, but if done right, the ventriloquist I find puppets really creepy. So the ventriloquist could work. I mean, there are so many of like Batman's like rogues gallery that can work in this like world.
What about Calendar Man?
I don't think I know Calendar Man.
Am I making him up? I'm just going to quickly Google. Julian Gregory Day, a supervillain. He's an enemy of Batman. He's known for committing crimes that correspond with holidays and significant dates. He often wears costumes to correlate with the date of the designated crime. His name is a reference to the Julian and Gregorian calendars. He was originally developed as a joke villain, but in later years he became a very disturbed, dark criminal who toys with Batman. So if you're going for like the more sort of street crime 7 kind of vibe, he'd be a good choice. In fact, he could be one you could introduce who could commit a crime, then turn up and become a sequel a few years down the line again on the same day.
Because we've had 2 of them, but I'm pretty sure Harvey Dent has been cast for the sequel. Yeah, because I know there's been because like there are 2 Harvey Dents, one in the Joker tragedy, but I think there is. I think he's also been cast for the Batman. So like we might be seeing another Two-Face, even though I love the one in the Dark Knight. I don't think it can be
Aaron
rivaled.
Eckhart, wasn't it? Yeah.
Rivaled. I still, I mean, that makeup, I still kind of need to like, it's the piece missing out of the nose for me. Are
you going to be out to vomit, Marie? Because remember, we are on video. Right, well, that's all the time we have today on the We Need a Road podcast. And you can find us on all the socials. You can find me at NeilG78 on Blue Sky, which is a new thing, but there's already a couple hundred of you following us over there. And I think, like a lot of people, we're all migrating over from The Bad Place. You can find us on The Bad Place at Needed Roads, because I forgot the we, but we're still there, and we'll be there for a while until all our friends are over here where the sky is blue. We're on Instagram at We Need a Roads, which David updates maybe once a month or 2 when we have a new episode out, or when I tell him to and send him clips. Also, we are on all your major podcast platforms. We're on Apple, we're on Spotify, and you can actually see our video episodes on Spotify as well now, because I'm uploading them as well, because that's something else I have to do. But also, mainly now, since we've started doing it, people are watching us on YouTube. So go to YouTube, go to the We Need Roads podcast and subscribe, because you'll be able to see all of our videos there. We're also banging up some short videos and some little clips from the shows, promos, all the good stuff. And everyone's apparently watching us now as opposed to listening to us. So that's horrific and scary. But hey,
yeah, kind of is the whole point of a podcast, but we'll see.
But apparently every podcast has to have video now. Who knew? Our numbers have quintupled since we moved over to YouTube. So give us a like, give a subscribe, other kids and follow us there. Marie, where can people find you and send you nice messages on the internet and not horrific hate?
You can find me on the interwebs under the handle Life on Mars, and you can check out my podcast. You can join my conclave at the 2 Girls, 1 Reusable Cup podcast.
A podcast they're definitely not going to be listening to in the Vatican anytime soon with that name. Or actually, they probably would be looking for the original name. Because they're a bunch of dirty birds. Dirty birds. Well, I was not expecting
some hit list after this episode.
A Vatican hit list. I was not expecting to reference misery at the end here, but there we are. I'm off to eat food and watch stuff. I'm going to go watch the 2nd episode of Silo, and hopefully I'll be able to see Rebecca Federer. Light her, you fools! Light her! We'll see you next time, folks.
We Needed Roads.